Oh, how shocking. The horrors of parasocial relationships have once again managed to ruin content creation, or an aspect adjacent to content creation, for yet another YouTuber. Who could have seen this coming? It's almost like there's consequences to normalizing becoming absolutely obsessed with somebody that you've never met before in your entire life. Who would have thunk? We are once again discussing a topic that I've talked about involving a bunch of different YouTubers, and while it's never necessarily fun to make these videos, I think they're important because the kinds of issues we're talking about today are issues that a lot of people contribute to without even realizing it, I think. A few days ago, a YouTuber named Wolfie VGC, who's a competitive Pokemon player, released a video titled Moving Forward, in which he talked about how he was no longer going to be attending in-person Pokemon tournaments because oftentimes when he would attend them, he would be touched and groped by his fans. Now, we've talked a lot on this channel about the insane kind of shit that parasocial relationships will make people do, so unfortunately, this kind of behavior is not necessarily surprising to me, but it is very disappointing and upsetting that people are so disconnected from reality that they think doing stuff like this is okay. Now, there's a whole lot that I want to talk about regarding all of this, but first we're going to watch a little bit of Wolfie's video just to kind of give you some context. Not the entire thing, just a couple of minutes of it. I would recommend that you go give the entire thing a watch though, because it's just worth it. Obviously, shit like this is disgusting. It's unacceptable. The fact that people feel comfortable doing stuff like this is terrible, and I feel like the more eyes that are on this, the better. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's begin. Please subscribe.
On top of that, I am not certain how much longer I will be attending in-person tournaments. It is entirely possible that I never compete in or attend another World Championships again. Worlds this year was my least favorite Worlds ever. And in the past, most of the time I didn't have fun at a Worlds, it was because I didn't feel good about my performance. By contrast, this year I feel excellent about my performance. While it wasn't a great finish, it was certainly a good one, and there's a lot of things that I'm extremely proud of that happened both at the tournament and in the preparation that make me feel overall very good about this year's run. And so the reason why I feel bad about this year's World Championships has nothing to do with my performance, and if anything, the performance is actually helping. Over the past several years, attending tournaments has been getting more and more difficult. And I would say that Worlds this year was a turning point and a peak and made it clear to me that something had to change. I competed at 7 official tournaments in the 2025 season. So from September 2024 until August 2025, I attended 7 in-person tournaments. At 5 of those tournaments, I was groped. Fans, when taking pictures with me, put their hands on me sexually and non-consensually during the act of taking photos.
So yeah, now I want to note that Wolfie says that this is not the only or even main reason that he's decided to make this decision, though obviously it would be very reasonable if it was. And just this kind of shit just really pisses me off. It really upsets me because it's a bigger problem than you may think. This has never happened to me. I've never been groped or touched by a fan in person, but obviously I have friends who are content creators behind the scenes, and it is a pretty big issue, especially with male content creators. And I think it's a lot different compared to when, obviously just women in general, but also content creators go through this kind of stuff, because I feel like when it's done to a woman, it's often much more targeted, it's much more malicious. But in a way, when it comes to being a male content creator, the way it's perceived is so much different that I think a lot of the times the perception can sort of attribute to this happening a lot more than you would expect. Unfortunately, the reality is a lot of the times people are going to be thinking, oh, well, I mean, he's a man, so at worst, he's just not going to care. At best, he might even like it. And you see this kind of mindset in action a lot, and it leads to stuff like this happening all the time. Obviously, I think the sort of default mindset of a normal, well-adjusted person is obviously a random woman walking down the street does not want to be touched. And you'd think that mindset would sort of extend to just any person doesn't want to be touched by a person they don't know. And I think for most people it does. But it's a very real thing. It's been studied, it's been reported, that a lot of people just don't extend that kind of thinking to men. And when you mix that with a parasocial relationship and a conventionally handsome person, you get this kind of shit, and it's rampant. And I think there's just a multitude of things that really need to be unpacked here, because later on he's going to say something to the effect of it only happens once or twice at every event, and the word only has no business in this sort of conversation. Being groped any amount of times is too much, and I think the fact that a lot of people would kind of look down on a man being oh, well, a woman touched me me when I didn't want her to, leads to people being embarrassed or ashamed of talking about stuff like this, or just completely unwilling to at all. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Wolfie said this is not like the main reason. There's a bunch of different stuff he talks about in this video, but there's one more thing he talks about in sort of a similar vein that I think is also important to cover, and it's something that I know a lot of people do without even really thinking twice about.
Before the tournament, I don't remember if it was like Wednesday or Thursday, but I had slept on my neck weird. Like I had one of those, it was like a crappy hotel pillow, and I'd gone to bed and I woke up and I was experiencing rather severe neck pain. And what made it especially difficult is that over the course of the weekend, people would reach out and they would grab me, not sexually, just regularly, right? But they would often grab me from a place where I could not see them, from like over my shoulder or something. And by instinct, when I am touched by a stranger, I would turn towards the stranger, and in doing so, it would cause my neck to spaz out. And so this happened, I don't remember the exact number, I was not really keeping track, but I know it was over 10 times. Over the course of one day of competing, people would reach out to get my attention, right? It feels, I think, to most people normal to be like, oh, I know that guy, let me go ahead and grab him, right? Like you would reach out and touch a friend. Except that for me, I don't know these people, and they're strangers, and it made my life so difficult at that tournament that I decided that I couldn't continue having my neck spaz out, and so I changed my flight home to Saturday morning.
Okay, so what he just said right here is something that over the years I have learned. I've come to realize that even the people who would swear up and down that they're not in any sort of parasocial relationship somehow do not understand. Because obviously, like, this is the basis of the issue of parasocial relationships. People who don't know you think that they're your friend, or that there's some sort of like two-way relationship because they watch you all the time. It's not just like crazy stans or fans who do shit that they shouldn't. The average parasocial relationship is like what he's describing. And I think a lot of the times it's like the most difficult kind of parasocial relationship to deal with, because so many people can find themselves falling into this trap and not even realizing it. I mean, just like he said, these people aren't even thinking twice about what they're doing. They're not doing anything that they think is malicious. It's just almost like instinct to them, because like many of us would probably reach out and tap the shoulder of a friend, get their attention, especially in like a loud, busy place. That's what they think they're doing, but they don't realize clearly, otherwise they probably wouldn't do it, but the person they're tapping has never seen their face before. They have no clue who they are. And I can guarantee you that a lot of the people that do this would never do this to a random stranger. They would not go around tapping strangers on the shoulder to get their attention. They'd use their words, because that's just what we do, right? You don't touch strangers. For some reason though, they cannot fathom that they are touching a stranger in touching a YouTuber or a streamer they watch. Just because you know them doesn't make them not a stranger. And this sort of idea is what I think has caused like most of the negative experiences I've had involving parasocial relationships. Like, I've been recognized dozens of times and it's always been positive. Like, I've never had a negative experience being recognized. But online, it's kind of a different thing. Where I notice this the most is my Instagram DMs. Some of the DMs I've gotten over the years have been like genuinely fucking insane, with me getting a crazy one almost daily. And again, I think this goes back to the whole thing where it's like the person DMing me this thing likely doesn't even mean anything bad by it. They just think it's a funny thing to send to a friend. And like, yeah, I can kind of get that. I send crazy shit to my friends all the time, but we're friends. The kinds of things that I get DM'd are not things that you send to a stranger, which I am to these people. They may not feel that way, but I am. DMs talking about wanting to rape me, wanting to break into my house, send this to somebody you want to peg, send this to somebody you want to breed. Yes, there's a common theme if you aren't picking up on that. And like, look, I understand that these people are probably sending these things as joke. Dear fucking God, I hope they're sending them as jokes, but like, these are not things that you joke about with strangers. I mean, I like to think that I have social media literacy, so most of the time I can sort of pick up on whether or not the person is being serious. But I mean, would you take that risk with somebody who wasn't a content creator? Would you send an Instagram post joking about wanting to have unconsensual sex to like a coworker you weren't very close with? I doubt it, but you know that person a hell of a lot better than you know any content creator. I mean, like, it's a very strange dynamic, and it's one that I never really understood the big deal about until I was on the receiving end of it. And I think it's something that you really just can't understand all that well unless you experience it. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to like group what I've been through into what Wolfie's been through, because clearly what he's experienced is far worse here. But I do think that this conversation is one that needs to be continuously had, because I do think that there are a lot of people who see the kind of stuff that Wolfie's been through, and like he said, most normal people are able to recognize that as bad behavior, as disgusting behavior, as things that you should not be doing under any circumstances. But from what I've sort of experienced firsthand, every step that you take back, like every proverbial step down the severity staircase that you make, a lot of the times for a lot of people, the lines start to get blurred. And before you know it, you're saying things or you're doing things, or even just like talking about a person who, no matter how you spin it, is a stranger to you, like you've known them for years. Now, I'm speaking very generally here, using a lot of the word you, so I want to make this clear. This is not like a big problem for me. You guys are great. I feel like I have a very chill, normal community, for lack of a better term. Like I said, I might get like a weird DM a day, so that's a few hundred interactions when there are millions of people that could be getting freaky on me, so, you know, I appreciate that. But just seeing Wolfie's video and hearing about his experience, this is something that I just think always needs more eyes on it, because as the internet evolves and there are more and more people turning towards social media as their primary form of entertainment, these problems are only going to get more common and they're going to get more severe. So all I'm asking really is, like, the next time that you interact with a content creator in a way that's more personal than like leaving a comment, because a lot of the times with like community interaction, there is a level of like banter that I think is expected and is perfectly fine between content creator and community. And there's a mutual understanding that like you don't know each other, but you're interacting in this community and that kind of brings you together. But like when it's off the site, you know, when it's not on a YouTube comment, it's an Instagram DM, it's seeing them in person, just remember that you are no longer in that sphere. Okay, you're not leaving a comment on a YouTube video that this person purposefully put out to get comments on. You're standing in front of them in a Walmart, or you walked up to them because you recognize them in a coffee shop. Okay, in that moment, that person is not really a content creator anymore. They are just a person who happens to be in the same public space that you are, that you've never met before in your entire life. You might recognize their face, you might recognize their voice, you might know a whole lot of shit about them, but you do not know them any more than you know any other stranger in that room, and more importantly, that person has never seen you in their entire life. Now look, I'm not trying to get like preachy on you, I'm not trying to come off as like an asshole. I'm not saying don't interact with creators online or offline. That's not what I'm saying at all. Without their audience, content creators would be nothing. So that's not what I'm saying, but just please try and recognize. And again, I'm talking to a very select few here, I'm just kind of speaking generally, that you might just need to kind of ease into it, you know? Kind of feel out the conversation. Don't just immediately be like, yeah, I can make a joke about fucking this person. It's probably not gonna go over too well. That's all. I really think you guys should go give Wolfie's video a full watch, especially if you think these kinds of conversations are as important as I do. I hate when shit like this goes unnoticed. Well guys, what are your thoughts? It's really disheartening to hear about all this. I truly hate that people who allow themselves to get lost in these sorts of parasocial relationships have ruined something that is obviously very important and dear to Wolfie. Like I said, I think talking about this kind of topic is important, but unfortunately, I think the reality is the people that need to hear it the most are the people who are never going to listen to this kind of shit. You know, the people who have fallen into these obsessive relationships where they think that groping a person they've never seen before in their life is appropriate are not going to be capable of listening to something like this. So I don't really know what the answer is. I don't know if there is one. How lovely. See ya.